lovely lady on our panel today, Jovanka Vuckovic. Elza Kephart from New York, and Izabel Grondin. All of whom are filmmakers in their own right. And so that is kind of, you know, there's a couple different issues that we're probably going to talk about today, and some of those have to do with women, the way that they're depicted on screen, and the way that they're perceived behind the scenes and behind the camera. And so since you guys are all filmmakers here personally, I just wanted to contextualize a bit. Maybe if we can just go one by one and maybe tell everybody what the turning point was for you that made you interested in this genre. Like whether it was as a fan or what made you decide to become a filmmaker working in this genre.
For that first question, je vais répondre en français parce que je suis plus à l'aise de parler en français. Si quelqu'un ne comprend pas, manifestez-vous. Moi, l'horreur, ça a toujours fait partie de ma vie depuis que je suis toute petite. Donc, c'était un peu écrit dans mon destin que j'allais faire des films d'horreur un jour. J'ai toujours aimé les méchants au cinéma. Ensuite, j'ai voulu être une méchante au cinéma. Et ensuite, j'ai découvert l'envers de la caméra. Et c'est là que j'ai dit, OK, ça c'est ma place. J'avais 22 ans, ça n'a jamais arrêté depuis. Donc, moi, j'écris, je réalise et je produis mes propres films. J'en ai 15 ans à mon actif. Ce sont tous des films majoritairement horreur, fantastiques. Mon Dieu, quoi d'autre? Je suis ce qu'on pourrait considérer une réalisatrice vraiment indépendante. Je fais des films sans l'aide des institutions. Je le fais par choix personnel parce que je veux avoir une liberté dans ma création. Et j'ai pas la patience d'attendre 4 ans pour financer 10 minutes de film, et voilà. Et j'ai rien à dire. Maude.
A bit like Izabel, I've been a fan of horror since I was a kid too. And I've always been interested in storytelling. And I started writing short story as a kid. And for a while I just entertained the idea of wanting to write a book, which ended up turning into a script, and that I somehow surreptitiously ended up directing. And it just felt like coming home when I did. So I just decided that's what I wanted to do with my life. And at first I didn't work just into horror. Like I tried a different, a big variety of genres. And then because I've been such a horror fan, I used to have this constant notion that you needed a lot of money to make a horror film, which couldn't be further from the truth. So at some point I just stopped being scared of failing, and I tried, and I ended up directing a horror short that was really well received. So that to me just made me realize that I could just marry those two passions of filmmaking and horror films. So that's how I got started into the genre.
Well, I should probably maybe give a bit of context about why I'm even here, because I'm not a filmmaker myself. But basically, I've been a horror fan since I was a kid. One of my earliest memories is watching The Horror Express, which totally changed my life. It gave me nightmares for years. And then when I was in my 20s, I started a fanzine, and it was called Cannibal Culture. I thought it was very clever. It was actually terribly pretentious. But the fanzine ended up getting me started. I had a horror film festival in Vancouver for a while, and got me into writing about genre films in general, which is how I met all these people and how I got involved with this stuff. So, that's
I too always liked the bad guys, so I thought they were pretty sexy, so I think that's why I ended up, no, I'm totally kidding. I always loved mystery stories. When I was a kid, I didn't really like the whole babysitters club. I liked those horrible teen novels where they all got killed one by one in a camping trip. And I don't know, I just loved reading fantastical literature like Anne Rice, that sort of stuff. And wanted to be a filmmaker since I was young, so I just started writing. Actually, that's not true. I didn't always write fantastical films, but I always liked them. And then when I decided to make my first feature, I thought, well, I'll make a zombie movie, because if it's not really good, it's still going to work. And then I no, not to say my film wasn't good, but it can sort of be a bit dodgy, but people still really liked it. And then just researching all those films, I realized I loved horror films. I've been going to Fantasia for years. And basically that got me back into it, and now I'm writing
Hi. I guess I'm not unlike everyone else. I've been a horror fan my whole life, ever since I was a little girl, and I grew up obsessed with horror and monsters, and I read Fangoria and Deep Red and Gore Zone and Eyeball magazine and everything I could get my hands on. And I was always interested in making films, but I understood that filmmaking is a technical art and it's a very difficult business for women to break into. So I was always trying to find another way, like a backdoor in, so I started doing digital special effects, and I was a digital effects artist for 5 years, figuring I could learn about filmmaking from the inside, rather than having to go to film school and work my way up and stuff. And then, because I wanted to learn about how horror films were made, I had this amazing opportunity to work at a horror magazine, and I was the editor-in-chief of a magazine called Rue Morgue for many years, and that for me was like my genre university. I studied, day in, day out, the genre, and learned about what made it tick. And only recently got the opportunity to make my first film. So, and it's not finished yet, so I feel like a bit of a fraud being up here because my film's not done yet, but definitely my aim has always been to make films too. I've just taken a very unorthodox route to get here.
And so, recently, as recently as 2 years ago, I guess, was Women in Horror Recognition Month was established, which is in February every month, and this is a kind of a rallying effort. It's not a formal organization, but it's basically, a website where they encourage people to program films and events and articles and interviews and give press and stuff like this to women who are working behind the scenes and in front of the camera, both in horror films. And so there's been a slew of events like over the past couple of years, but I wanted to see maybe, when I first heard about women in horror recognition, everybody was like really excited about it, and people are commenting on all these things, like, oh yeah, I'll totally do something for this or whatever. But I started thinking about like, whose recognition are we trying to get, and why? And this led me to thinking about a comment that Elza, that you had made earlier, where you were saying that you found that your, like who you had to defend your love of the genre to was not maybe who you expected it might be.
That's true. I made a zombie movie called Graveyard Alive, A Zombie Nurse in Love. And it played in a lot of film festivals, and whenever I spoke to men, saying, yeah, I made a zombie movie. They're so excited. They thought it was awesome that a woman was making a horror movie. But it was older women, especially, not women my age, but women maybe in their 40s, 50s, who were sort of appalled. Like, but you seem so nice. Like, why would you be making that? That's disgusting. And I'm like, I don't know, I just like it. Like, why do I have to defend my choices? And I would get really, really mad that I had to, it's almost like I was a freak. Like, how dare a nice woman make something so horrible? Like, it's releasing something evil that's inside of us. And I thought it was really curious that it's like women have to be nice. And when we're not nice, it's even worse than when we're nice. And then when men are not nice. But for men, it was just, that's awesome. So if you guys have had the same.
Yeah, how have you seen like the response to your films and your interests from men versus women, the kind of support that you get?
If I can chime in, I guess I do kind of agree with Elza in a way, because when I started working on my web documentary about women in horror, a lot of men I found in the genre were extremely supportive, and they're like, that's such a great initiative, we need to talk more about the women. And to me, like, the whole goal of me starting this is that I kind of struggle personally with the idea of like being a woman, like proud of being a woman, and liking the genre where that every other women that I knew hated because they thought it was misogynist. And I've been told many times that I was the embodiment of everything that was wrong with women today. And I somehow thought it was really ludicrous, and I'm like, okay, well, let me just show you I'm not the only one, please listen. And I guess in a way, men have been like more receptive to my work to a certain extent, but now more and more, I guess, I discovered like all these great other women working in the genre genre, and there is a big network of support, like, you know, that is there. I don't think, though, personally, though, there's been a big difference in the way that people react to it, so, but I do think it's a great initiative to have started the Women in Horror Movement.
Quand moi, j'ai commencé, je dirais que les choses ont beaucoup changé. Je dirais que je suis peut-être celle qui en fait depuis le plus longtemps autour de cette table. Donc moi, je vois une grosse différence entre ce qui se passait dans les années 90 et puis maintenant. Moi, à cause de mon physique, je suis petite, je suis blonde. Quand j'ai commencé à faire des films, je me faisais pas prendre au sérieux du tout. Et puis les gens avaient comme une image en tête avant de me voir. Ils s'attendaient à voir une grande fille plantureuse avec des tattoos, des piercings. Quelque chose d'assez evil. Et quand ils me voyaient, c'était tout le temps l'espèce de quasiment de déception, je dirais. C'était « Ah ouais, c'est ça, cette fille-là, ok. » Puis moi, dans mon cas, je pense que j'ai été jugée beaucoup plus par les femmes que par les hommes quand je faisais des films. Mais je trouve qu'aujourd'hui, avec tous les événements qui se passent et puis la visibilité des femmes sur la scène de films de genre, ça a beaucoup changé. Alors, je pense que les gens sont plus ouverts à ça. Et moi, j'espère qu'un jour, on ne parlera plus de femmes dans le film de genre parce que je trouve que ça nous discrédite en quelque part. On n'est pas des femmes qui font des films, on fait des films, point. En tout cas.
Well, Jovanka, I wanted to ask you, because you've been on the other side also being a journalist and writing about the films, and so if anyone, you might be more aware of just how many films are being made by women now, like in terms of like women behind the camera.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons now in the independent arena, like, you know, movies that everyone has heard of. You probably, you know, Hamilton, you know, 1.5 hands. But, you know, I find that the men in the genre are generally very supportive of, you know, of women making movies. It really doesn't matter to them whether you're male or female, as long as you're making good films. And of course, you run into the occasional misogynist, and that's just the, you know, it's just the nature of the male-female dynamic. You know, when I worked at the magazine, we used to get people writing to me similar things, saying, "How can a nice girl like you put out this filth every month?" And, or they'd meet me and they'd be shocked by my appearance because they expected me to look like a librarian because I was a magazine editor. And so you have all these perceptions, but I think that happens in every industry. But yeah, there's definitely way more women making movies.
Did you notice, like, over...
I have noticed a trend. Yeah, definitely. And even just going to conventions at the very beginning, I found, you know, there were way less women, and now I think there's 51%, or more than half of the convention attendees are women. Yeah. So Comic-Con is like all chicks now. It's a great place to pick up chicks. But you know, just gender dynamics are, you know, strange things. Even if you are, you know, you are a great filmmaker, you stand your ground, you're still going to run into, you know, shitheads. It's funny, you find people that kind of, they hate you for making horror films, but they also want to fuck you. It's like, you can't strange, like, position to be in.